What up, though? Yeah, I want to talk real quick about this immigration thing because I think a lot of people don't understand it. So I want to give you an example of how I understand it and how I look at it. And I think the best way is to look at your own house, because in your own house you have your own borders, your own rules, and everything. So I think using your own house is the best example. So let's say you got your house, and one day you decide to go on vacation for 5 days, and then you come back and 3 people are living in your house. You know, they're sitting there eating your food, chilling, and you come in like, what you doing? You know, what you doing in my house? And they're like, oh, we saw this house, and you know, it's always big and nice, so and it was plenty of room, so we just came on in. But we're being very respectful. We're cleaning up, and you know, after we eat our food, we're washing our dishes, and you know, when we sleep in the beds, we make them up. Now, would you look at that and say, okay, well, since you're doing all that, it's okay, you can stay? Or would you be like, look, man, get out my house. You can't be in my house. You can't touch my stuff. I think most of us would respond like that. I don't know who you are. You know, they say, well, my name is Mike, and I'm a nice guy, and my people with me, they're nice too. And you see, we're taking care. You'd be like, I think the majority of us would be like, no, Mike and your nice friends, get out my house. I didn't say you could come in here. I don't care how nice you is. I don't care how nice you are, excuse me. I don't care if you washed the dishes and swept the floor and all that. I don't know who you are. Get out my house. I think that's how most people would respond, because they violated their space. They're an intruder. They're in here illegally in your space. Now, if I invite the person in, and which means they came in legally, and I say, yeah, help yourself to something, and they make their own, but that's different. They're there illegally. But if you just decide to come in, I don't care how nice you are, you can't do that. Now, in the case of now most of these folks, they like to claim asylum, an asylum seeker. I look at an asylum seeker as, say, once again, let's say if I'm gone for 5 days, I come back in, and then I see a woman or a teenage girl or a young adult girl, and she's under the table and her clothes are ripped and she got like a little bruise on her, and she's like, and I'm like, hey, what you doing in my house? What's going on? He said, this guy was chasing me, he tried to rape me. And I see her clothes are ripped, and she's, you know, like I say, the bruise, and I needed someplace to hide, and I climbed in a window. You know, I'm sorry, I just didn't know what to do. I had to find asylum, you know. I would say, would you just kick her out? Most people probably wouldn't. They say, okay, hold on here. We're going to make sure it's safe, especially if you live out in a rural area where you don't have a lot of neighbors. And you're like, okay, let me make sure everything's safe. Or especially if it's a child, let's make sure everything is safe. And then I'm going to call the police, and we're going to take care of her, and see, you know, and we're going to go through the process, and I'm going to allow her to stay for right now, to make sure she's safe. That's what an asylum seeker is more like. You look at them a little differently in your house than if somebody just decided they just want to be in your house. Like when they would interview a lot of those illegal aliens when they were on their way to the U.S., they would say, oh, I'm coming here for work. But that's just, you know, that's the same. They're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to come here for asylum. And they can come here legally for work, but they just can't walk in your house and say, hey, I'm going to chill here. Now, if they ask you, can they work on your property, that's different. So I don't know if it's making sense to y'all, but I'm trying to give you an idea. Now, when we get to the thing of illegal aliens coming in and getting all this free stuff, you know, they've been getting free hotels, free meals, they've been getting food cards, vouchers, all that kind of stuff. Now, let's take that example. Now, let's say we're all millionaires. Let's say you're a millionaire. And you got your house, you got your fences up, you know. And then one day you leave, and then all these people climbed into your fence, and you got hundreds of people, and they're just coming in freely. You know, your security is left, and your gates are open, and people are just coming in freely. You come there, and there's 1,000 people at your house, and they're eating your food, and you have to, and they're utilizing your electricity and utilities and stuff. And you call the police and say, hey, I got all these illegal aliens. I got all these people, these intruders in my house. What's going on? You know, they done broke into my house. And then the police say, well, you gotta let them stay there. Can't put them out. What you mean I can't put them out? Just my house. No, you gotta let them stay there. And also you gotta feed them. And matter of fact, how much you pay for insurance? I pay $300 a month for my health insurance. Okay, you're gonna have to start paying about $1,000 because we're gonna put them on. You gotta put them on your insurance too. You gotta take care of that too. I'm not paying for all these people. I can't sustain that. Even though I'm a millionaire, I'll go broke. There's no way I can sustain that. I can't take. And anybody can come in and leave. Anybody can come on your property. What you think will happen? You'll be broke in no time. And there's a lot of people who hate this country, and that's their goal for this country to do that here. So when you're looking at illegal aliens, when they're coming in by the millions and been given all this free stuff, and how, like I say, when I just gave that example with the police saying you got to keep them, then all these other people are going to find out, hey, we can go into that millionaire's house and take whatever we want, and it's all good. So that's going to incentivize them to come there. And that's what we got going. That's what we had going on in this country. We had millions of people coming in getting free stuff. It's unsustainable. A lot of places thought being a sanctuary city was going to be cool. But take Chicago, for example. They're experiencing the millionaire house being intruded on. They were living in Chicago. They thought it was cool to be sanctuary city. Then all them illegals got up there. And the guy in charge, now they're trying to do anything they can to get rid of the guy in charge because of what he's done. They came in there. Next thing they know, the people, especially in the poor communities like South Side, West Side, or they sit there and now their community centers had illegal aliens sleeping in them. So their kids couldn't play in the community centers no more because now the illegals have them. And they were pissed, because their kids didn't have anything to do. So, they like, imagine that your kid can't go to the community center that you pay taxes for because the illegal aliens have it. And then they don't have no money for your community because they were giving it to the illegal aliens so they would have food and shelter. And you don't have no health care, but the illegal aliens got Medicaid. They got health care. So, they got their health card. They go into and the people in Chicago got pissed off, because they're the millionaire and all these people came and they get all this free stuff and the authorities say you gotta keep them there and keep paying for them. They're experiencing that, and some other cities are experiencing it too. And Texas was experiencing that big time, and so that's what it's like. You may not agree with this analogy. I think it's spot on. So whenever you're trying to understand what the complaint is about illegal aliens and illegal immigration, that's what it is. You can come in legally, which is like knocking on the door, speaking, may I come in, or asking, yeah, can I come in and talk to you about something? And the owner says, yes, you can come in, or it's a friend of the owner. Whatever the case is, the owner gives you permission to come in. But when you come in a house that you're not allowed to come in, you're an intruder, period. You don't and you don't want to hear all this language. They're not an illegal alien, they're undocumented. Would you like somebody, let's say you got your crib and they come in your crib, would you ever refer to them as a guy that just broke into your place? He is an uninvited guest. Well, he's an uninvited guest. No, you say that's an intruder. That's a thief. He's an intruder. He broke in my house. You wouldn't want to hear all this special terminology so that they won't feel bad or look bad. Well, they're just unrecognized, unpredetermined guest or some mess like that they make up. You don't want to hear that. No, this dude is an intruder. They broke him out. They're illegally in my house. That's what you're going to say. I think that's what most people would say. So I'm going to just leave you at that. I hope that brought some light to the subject and help you think about it and understand it. Because the biggest problem we got here in this country is, in my opinion, is people don't really think about or bother to think about stuff unless it directly affects them. And by that time, it's too late. So I'm trying to give you some understanding before it gets to that point. But when it gets to that point, it's harder to fix a problem than it is to stop it before it happens. So I'm letting you know that's how it works. At least that's my opinion on how it works, and to me that's the best way to look at it, or that's the best way for me to look at it. You have to determine for yourself if that's a good way to look at it. Love y'all. God bless.